Okay, good evening. We are live on Facebook right now, so you all are not being seen at the moment, but there's a nice large crowd here for anyone doesn't necessarily believe me. Anyway, I'm Yoel Oz. I live here in Yishmael. I was a rabbi in Washington, D.C. before I made the also taught at the Abrahamic Academy. Some of you may have heard of it. Been living in Israel for about 12, 13 years. Done different things. This is, I think, maybe like the fifth or sixth shiur that I've given here. The previous shiurim were mostly on the topics of Kabbalah and rationalism and Rav Kook, Rav Herzog, Rav Soloveitchik. Today we're doing something a little bit different. This is more Bereshit, Sefer Bereshit stuff, Parshanut. I've done several different things since I came here, but one of the things that I did was I sort of got involved in Israeli politics, shul politics. The joke is that I couldn't handle shul politics, so I got involved in Israeli politics. My background is I studied political science at Yeshiva University, and I studied religion and philosophy. So the intersection of the two of them came together as being a rabbi in Washington, and when I came to Israel, I was working on different ideas regarding both the Israeli-Arab conflict as well as the internal Israeli divide on religion and state. We're not talking about religion and state. Today we did that in one of the previous shiurim. This was actually before the whole judicial upheaval, which was before the war, if anybody remembers. It's like so long ago. Anyway, so I started an organization called the Abrahamic Movement. I had written a book called Abrahamic Federation. I developed a concept that I call Abrahamic Federalism. The idea, for those of you who are maybe American or come from other countries that have federal governments, the idea is that you would have multiple states, but they would be under one federal government or council, or there would be some third body like the United States or the European Union. One is the U.S. is a federation, EU is a confederation, and something sort of like a hybrid between the two. Again, that's not the topic of this year, but the point was that I wrote this, and then I started this organization, and we were getting involved in interfaith activities between Jews and Muslims, and Palestinians and Israelis, and then October 7th happened. And pretty much all of that came to a halt. And we've been sort of, in the past couple of weeks, literally digging out from the trauma that we've been all gone through for the past couple of years. And now I'm getting back into this. We're doing like a relaunch of this Abrahamic movement. And so I decided for the topic for this year, you guys are my guinea pigs. I'm testing out some new material. I would love to hear your feedback, like in all honesty. And the great thing is that the teaching to Israeli students, I don't have to do translations. But a lot of the work, I don't know if you went to high school in America, or Jewish high schools or anything, but like a lot of the work that you're doing is translation a lot of the time. So the fact that I assume most of you probably can handle Hebrew texts on your own fine. But when I do this, I'm probably going to have to I would like to give this year again in the future. I'm going to have to translate the sources into English. So tell me what you think of the sources. Tell me what you think of the ideas, the presentation. You can. Well, that's a whole different story. Okay. So let me ask you guys a question. So if I raised the name Yishmael to you, okay, I have three options. Your first reaction: favorable, unfavorable, or not sure, neutral.
Unfavorable. Depends what Yishmael you're talking about.
Okay.
There's no Yishmael within the Torah.
Good. Any other comments? What about Hagar? Positive, neutral?
Poor guy. Pity. Yeah.
A little bad for her.
That's less favorable than Yitzchak, but still, he's going to become one of the main world powers.
Okay.
So, still favorable, but not as favorable.
Okay. All right. So that's where we're starting, and these are great. You already hit like one of the sources we're gonna see later on. But basically, the way that I want to do this is before we go to I divided it up into two sheets. The first sheet is just the psukim in the Torah, primary sources. I want to go through the text, just pshat, without mefarshim, and let's see. I bolded some psukim just to. It's sort of foreshadowing what we're going to see in the mefarshim, but I wanted to just sort of. What is our impression without looking at any of the other outside later sources? What's basic shot of the story of Sarah, Hagar, Yitzchak, and Yishmael? Okay, so it begins. Everything really begins with Lech Lecha. I say Zionism begins with Lech Lecha. I think everybody who's made Aliyah has a Lech Lecha story. I think that we all, those of us who came from abroad, we felt the calling. We felt something drawing us to this place and going a bit into the unknown. Now, with Avram, he has this thing. He's told by God that he's going to inherit this land, and he's going to have progeny, the numbers of the stars in the sky, the sand and the sea. Only problem is, he comes at the age of 75. He's now 85. It's 10 years later. No children. So what exactly is he supposed to do? So that's the beginning. אחר הדברים האלה היה דבר השם אל אברהם במחזה לאמור אל תירא אברהם אנוכי מגן לך לך שכרך הרבה מאוד. Okay, so after these things, the war of the 5 kings versus the 4 kings, God appears to Avram in a machazeh, which is an interesting. We're not going to get into that, but that's just an interesting prophetic word. And he says to him, "Do not fear. I am protecting you. Your schar is great." Vayomer Avram Hashem Elokim, Ma titen li va'anochi holech hariri. Okay, what will you give me, my schar, when I have no children? Ben meshek de beiti hu da mesek Eliezer, and all I have is Eliezer. Vayomer Avram hein li lo natat zera. More explicitly, you haven't given me children. V'hinei ben beiti yoreshoti, my servant. He calls him ben beiti. He doesn't call him his servant, which is also an interesting thing, because there were people who were bnei beit Avraham, which not for today, but that's an important concept. V'hinei dvar Hashem elav lemor lo yirashcha zeh. Okay, this one will not inherit you. Ki im asher yitzei mime'echa hu yirashecha. Okay, someone that is actually going to be your physical child. Okay, all right. So Bereshit Tet Zayin, v'Sarai eshet Avram lo yalda lo v'la shivcha mitzrit ushma Hagar. So Sarai has not provided a child, and she had an Egyptian maidservant, Shivcha. Remember, they were in Mitzrayim, so one of the things that they came out of Mitzrayim. One of the things, presumably, that they came back with Mitzrayim was this woman Hagar. We don't know anything about her. We don't know anything about her background. We don't know what kind of a Shivcha she is, but we know that she's Egyptian. But Tomer Sarai el Avram. So Sarai says to him, "Hine na atzarani Hashem miledet." God has stopped me from being able to give birth. Bona el shivchati. Now please come to my maidservant. Ulai ibanen imeno. Maybe I will build from her. Vayishma Avram likol Sarai. Avram listens to the voice, to the words of Sarai. Vatikach Sarai eshet Avram et Hagar hamitzrit shivchata. Miketz eser shanim l'shevet Avram be'eretz Canaan. After 10 years that they've been living in Eretz Canaan, Vatiten ota le'Avram isha lo le'isha. So she gives her to Avram. What's the word that they use for what she's going to be?
English?
No, in Hebrew. What was the word that they used?
Sarai,
Isha. Okay, it's going to be important. Not a shivcha, not a pilegesh. It says she gave her to him. Isha. He is still her Isha, and she's giving her to him as an Isha.
But why Abraham couldn't take care himself?
We'll get there. We're just doing pshat of the psukim, but the Mefarshim deal with these things. Okay, vayavo el Hagar vatahar vatera kiharata. Okay, so he came unto Hagar and she became pregnant, and she saw that she became pregnant. Vatekal gvirta be'eneha. Her gvir, the one her master, her mistress, became light, tekal. Okay, we don't know what tekal means, but it seems that Hagar is, now getting a higher state, and she's not acting towards Sarai with respect, or something happens, the dynamic of the relationship. But Tomer Sarai al Avram, so what does Sarai says? She turns to Avram, Chamasi alecha, I'm angry with you. Anochi natati shivchati, she uses the word my maidservant, bechekecha, batera kiharata, ve'ekal be'eneha, yishpot Hashem beini uveincha. God will judge between you and me. So what's Avram? This is the classic. I don't know if any of you are married yet, but your wife accuses you of something, you're about to get into a fight. The answer is yes, dear. I was wrong. You were right. Whatever you want. You kind of just try to play it cool. All right. Vayomer Avram el Sarai. So what does Avram say to her? Hinei shifchatech biyadech. She's your maidservant. She's in your hands. Asila hatov be'inayich. Do what you see is fitting in your eyes. So Avram doesn't really take a moral stand of any sort here, but he basically says to Sarai, it's in your hands. Bata'aneh Sarai, bativrach mipanat. Sarai afflicted her. Sarai, she made her feel pain, and she ran away from her. Now, this is important. Vayimtza'a malach Hashem al ein hamayim bamidbar al ha'ayin b'derech shur. So she's running away, and on the way out, she sees an angel of God. Now, when we read Sefer Bereshit, it's like, Vayomer Hashem al Avram, Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe Lemor. God's talking to people, all the time. So we sort of take it for granted that God is appearing to people because it happens all the time in the Torah. But for Hagar, this is a scary, crazy incident that she's encountering a malach. Vayomar, the malach says, Hagar, shivchat Sarai, emi zevat va'ana lechi. Where are you coming from and where are you going? Vatomer mipnei Sarai gvirti anochi borachat. I'm running away from Sarai, my mistress. Vayomer la malach Hashem, shuvi el gvirtech v'hit'ani tachat yadeha. And the malach says to her, go back to your mistress and take the suffering under her hands. Vayomer la malach Hashem. The malach says to her again, Harbe zarech v'lo yisafer merov, and I will make your seed great, and they will not be able to be counted. Vayomer la malach Hashem. Again, the malach speaks to her. So we have 4 times here that the malach is speaking to her. Hinach harav yoladet ben. You are now pregnant, and you're going to give birth to a son. V'karat shmo Yishmael ki shama Hashem el onyech. And you will call him Yishmael because Hashem has heard your suffering. V'hu yeh pereh adam, yado b'kol v'yad kol bo. He will be a wild man. His hand will be on everybody, and everybody's hand will be on him. V'al pnei kol echav yishkon. And he will live among all of his. He will dwell among all of his brothers. There's going to be a later pasuk that's going to use a different language, but similar. But we'll see that a little bit later. But just to make a point of that. Vatikra Shem Hashem Hadover Eleha Ata El Ro'i Ki Amra Hagam Halom Ra'iti Acharei Ro'i. She says, God saw me, and I'm stunned that I saw what I saw. Al Kain Kara La Be'er Lachai Ro'i. The well is called Be'er Lachai Ro'i. This is important also. We'll see that later. Hine Ben Kadesh and Ben Baret. It's in the desert. Batelet Hagar ben Vaikra Avram Shem Beno Asher Yalda Hagar Yishmael. So Avram calls the name of the son Yishmael. So how did Avram know about this Yishmael business?
She told him.
Right. Okay. So Avram names him Yishmael. So presumably Hagar had a conversation with Avram. So
Why wouldn't it be that he had a son? God listens to spirit.
Well, who names the son is an important thing. Also because who doesn't name the son? Sarai does not name the son, and Hagar is given the name, but Sarai doesn't. In the cases of the Shvatim, shfachot of Rachel and Leah, Bilhah and Zilpah. Who gives them the names? Rachel and Leah give the names. Okay, so even though they were born as to their maidservants, the mistress of the house, she was the one that gave the name. In this instance, Avram is the one that gives him the name that Hagar said he will be called. So maybe Avram knew it on his own, or he had a conversation with Hagar. Yeah.
I didn't know why did he say that Hagar gave him the name?
That God said or the Malach said to him, you will give birth to a son, and you will call him Yishmael. Yishma Hashem El Onyech. Okay? So the Malach says, you will call him. It doesn't say he will be called, it says you will call him Yishmael, and then in the Pasuk Tetvav, it says Avram calls him Yishmael. Okay? Just to know. Parak Yudzai. Vayhi Avram ben 99 shanim, vayira Hashem el Avram, vayomer elav, ani kel shakai, hitalech lefanai v'heyeh tamim. Okay, so we're going to be skipping some of the psukim a little bit in this parak. This is the section where Avram circumcises himself and his household and Yishmael, and he is told that he's going to have a son through Sarah. So Zot briti asher tishmeru beini uveinechem bein zaracha acharecha himo lachem kol zachar. So first, Heyeh Tamim, I'm asking you, Avram, I've done all these different, things to you. This is already, after the Milchama, and after he leaves his house, and after the story with Yishmael and with Sarah. He's saying, have Heyeh Tamim, have faith to some extent. Be simple. Be Tamim. Okay, Unamaltem, and I'm asking you also at the age of 99 to circumcise yourself. The circumcision will be the sign of the brit, the covenant between me and you, me, God, and you. And at 8 days, all males will be circumcised for all generations. This is going to be an interesting thing that we're going to see later on in the halacha with the Rambam. Yilid bayit umiknat kesef. Again, we talked about bnei beit Abraham, so those who were born in his household. Umiknat kesef, umikol ben nechar, people who were slaves. Miknat kesef, people who were bought, and all foreigners, all nochrim, all non-Abrahamics, I guess. Asher lo mizar achahu, those who are not of your progeny. Yilid beitcha umiknat kaslecha. Those who are in your household, the brit will be in your flesh. Vayomer Elohim el Avram, Sarai ishtecha lo tikra et shema Sarai ki Sarah shema. Don't call her Sarai. Her name is Sarai. It doesn't say with Avram, I'm changing your name. He just says Sarah shema. She is a princess. She is like royalty. Okay? Ubeirachti ota v'gam natati mimena. Lecha ben uverachtia v'hayita legoyim malchei amim mimena yiyu, and I will bless her, and I will give from her to you a son, and I will bless her, bless him, verachtia, bless her, and will be for nations, and kings of nations will come out from this. Vayipol Avram al panav Yitzchak. And Avram falls on his face. God's talking to him, and Avram just starts laughing. It's like, okay, God, very nice. You've already, you've taken me here. You've done this. You've done that to me. You told me to be Heyeh Tamim. Now you're telling me my 90-year-old wife is going to give birth to a son. Okay, God, enough. Stop playing games with me. Vayomer bilibo. He said to himself, Halaben mea shana yivaled. The 100-year-old man going to give birth to Sarah, bat tishim teled, and the 90-year-old woman. Vayomer Avram el Elohim, lu Yishmael yichya lefanecha. Avram says to God, at least, if only just give it to me that Yishmael should live. Because at this point, he thinks that the brit, what everything that God promised to him, is going through Yishmael. Up until now, Avram thinks that the whole future is going through Yishmael. So now God is coming in and he's changing the story. Before it was Yishmael. Now you're saying you're giving me another son through Sarah that's going to be born in this miraculous way, and he's going to be the one who's going to carry the brit. So Avram says, "What about Yishmael?" And that's going to be important. Vayomer Elohim aval Sarah ishtecha yoledet lecha ben, but no. God, Sarah, your wife, will give you a child, a son. The karata et shemo Yitzchak, and just like you laughed, basically, you're going to call him Yitzchak. V'hakimoti et riti ito. The word mitzachek is a very important word also. Yitzchak, mitzachek. That's also going to come. That's also going to come. V'hakimoti et riti ito lebrit olam lezaro acharav. And I will make my covenant with him, an everlasting covenant for him and his children. Yishmael shma'aticha, but I've also, okay, yes, Lu Yishmael yichya lefanecha. Yishmael shma'aticha, I've heard you. Yes, Yishmael, hine be'irachti oto, v'ifreiti oto, v'herbeiti oto, b'm'od me'od. I will bless him and I will make him numerous, very, very, me'od me'od. Shnei masar nesi'im yolid, v'natativ l'goy gadol. He will have 12 princes that come out of him, and he will become a great nation. That's Briti Akim et Yitzchak. But my covenant I will give with Yitzchak, Asher Teled Lecha Sarah, Lamoed Hazeh Bashana Ha'acheret. Okay? So the next prakim are dealing with the angels who then come to visit Avram, and then they tell that Avram that they're going to have a baby, and also the story with Sodom, and then the story with Lot, and then we'll come to Parak Chaf Aleph after Hashem Hakadet Sarah, that God remembered Sarah, and Sarah gives birth to Yitzchak. And they have this big party when Yitzchak is weaned, and I guess none of you guys have children yet. But what do you think happens to the second child when the new child comes? How does the first child feel? Annoying. Yeah, because for all this time they've been the only one. They've gotten all the attention. And, oh, look, here's a new child, and this kid is, he's now the star of the show. So, just to give it an understanding. So what do boys who have younger brothers do to them usually?
Beat them up.
They beat them up. This is like a normal male child kind of phenomenon.
It doesn't have to be brothers.
Doesn't have to be brothers. Yeah, it's a guy thing.
No, it's really not. It's a sibling thing.
Yeah, it's a sibling thing. Also, girls. There's no question about that. Girls are also difficult with their younger sisters, but I think with boys, there's a little bit more roughhousing. Vatera Sarah et ben Hagar hamitzrit asher yalda la'Avraham mitzachek. Sarah sees the son of Hagar hamitzrit that she gave birth. That Hagar gave birth to Avram mitzachek. He's doing this tzchok. What that is, we don't know. Vatomer la'Avraham, and she says to Avraham, Garish ha'amat azot ve'et bena. Remember, she says originally, Ibanem imena. Yishmael was supposed to be her son. But she's saying, get rid of this woman and her son. Kilo yirash ben ha'ama hazot im b'nei Yitzchak. My son will not inherit along with the son of this maidservant. Again, she doesn't refer to him as Yishmael. Ben ha'ama hazot. Her relationship with Hagar, it's gotten really bad. Vayira hadavar me'od ve'inei Avraham alodot beno. And the matter was very difficult and very bad in Abraham's eyes about his son, because from Avram's perspective, whether he comes from Hagar or from Sarah, it doesn't matter. He's still his bechor, his son. Okay, Vayomer Elohim el Avraham, and so Avram doesn't know what to do. God comes to him. It says, Al yirabeinecha al hanar v'al hamatecha. Don't let it be evil in your eyes regarding the boy and your maidservant. Kol asher tomar elecha Sarah shma b'kola. Everything that Sarah says, listen to her voice. Ki b'Yitzchak yikar elecha zera. Because through Yitzchak you have the progeny. V'gam et ben ha'ama legoy asimenu ki zarachahu. But I will also, the son of the maidservant, I will make him into a great nation, because he's also your child. Vayashkem Abraham b'boker, vayikach lechem v'chem et mayim vayiten el Hagar sam al shikma, ve'et hayeled vayishalchea, v'atelet meteta b'midbar be'ersheva. Okay, so he sends them off on their way with some water and some bread, and they're wandering around in the desert of Beersheba. Vayichlu amayim v'nachemet, v'tashlich et hayeled tachat achad hashichim. So they run out of water, and she abandons Yishmael. She goes away from him the distance of shooting an arrow. Again, keshet is also an important word that comes up. Ki amra, I can't watch the child die. And she watched from a side. And she raised her voice and cried. Okay, so you feel the suffering of Hagar here, but it's also like, this is your child. You're separating yourself from the child. The Mefarshim will deal with this. This time again, an angel appears calls to Hagar from the heavens. Malach Hagar, al tiri ki shama Elokim el kol hanar ba'asher husha. Okay, don't worry, don't fear, because Hashem has heard the voice of the boy. Ba'asher husha. Take his hand, I will make him into a great nation. He opened up her eyes and she saw a well of water. She fills it up, her pouch with water, and she gives water to the child. And God is with the boy. Okay, Vayigdal, and he grew. Vayeshev bamidbar, vayihi roveh kashet. And what did he do? He was an archer. He bow and arrow, and he lived in the desert. Vayeshev bamidbar paran, vatikach lo imo isha me'eretz Mitzrayim. So who does she take? Remember, like the story later on when Avram has to look for a wife for his son, and when Yaakov has to get a wife for himself, who you choose as the wife is really, really important. So Hagar chooses a woman from Egypt, still probably because she was Egyptian. That would, in my mind, that there's a connection.
I know that she was like a princess, and that's why she had the audacity to even like.
The Midrashim, we're only going to see a couple, but
it makes sense.
There's definitely logic in it, absolutely. Okay, so then the story with Yishmael in Pshat ends here. And the story with Hagar seems to end here too, except in the end, after Sarah dies and at the end of his life, Vayosef Avram vayikach isha ushma Keturah. Avram takes another wife, and her name is Keturah. We'll see Rashi says that this is Hagar. Kol ele b'nei Keturah, and he only has one child from Sarah and one child from Hagar. From Keturah, he has like a whole slew of children. Vayiten Abraham et kol asher lo leYitzchak, but he gives everything that is his to Yitzchak. V'livnei ha'pilagshim, and here he calls them pilagshim. Asher la Abraham, maybe, and he had pilagshim in addition to Keturah, perhaps. Natan Abraham matanot. He gave them gifts. Vayishalchem me'al Yitzchak b'no ba'odenu chai. He sent them away while Yitzchak was still alive. Kedma el eretz kedem, towards the east. Vayikberu oto, and skipping a couple of psukim. Vayikberu oto Yitzchak v'Yishmael b'nav el me'arat hamachpelah. Yitzchak and Yishmael come together. Remember, Yishmael is now living out in the desert. Yishmael comes back to be with Yitzchak to bury Abraham in Ma'arat HaMachpelah. Vayhi acharei mot Abraham vayivarech Elohim et Yitzchak beno vayeshev Yitzchak im be'er lachai ro'im. Where does Yitzchak choose to live? Be'er lachai ro'im. Yitzchak goes to the place of where Yishmael's the revelation to Hagar came. Perhaps it's also in the desert. Perhaps that Yitzchak is going to try to live near Yishmael. Maybe Yitzchak's trying to have a relationship with his brother. Then the Torah goes on. Ve'ele toldot Yishmael. We don't know if anything happens from this. Ve'ele toldot Yishmael ben Abraham. Now we all know that this coming week's parsha is toldot. Ve'ele toldot Yitzchak. Abraham will lead it. Yitzchak. Okay, but before that, the parsha before it, Ve'ele toldot Yishmael. Before it tells the toldot of Yitzchak, it tells the toldot of Yishmael. Asher yalda Hagar hamitzrit shivchat Sarah la'Avraham. Ve'ele shmot b'nei Yishmael b'shmotam v'toldotam. Okay, a whole long list. Elehem b'nei Yishmael ve'ele shmotam b'chatzerehem u'b'tiotam shnei masar nesiim le'umatam. There were 12 tribes of Yishmael. Ve'ele shnei chayei Yishmael. These are the number of the years of Yishmael. Me'at shana u'shloshim shana v'sheva shanim vayigva vayamot vayasef el amav. He died. He was bound to Vayigva. He kind of like was was put together, and he died, and he was gathered unto his people. Is this kind of language used for regular people, or is this the kind of language that's used for righteous people?
The Yisaf al-Amav is for sure righteous.
Right. So Vayasef el Amav, he's getting something particularly great. It seems to also Vayasef el Amav seems to have some sort of like afterlife connotation, or some family. Okay, so we'll get to that. Okay, Vayishkenu machavila ad Shiur al pnei Mitzrayim bo'acha Ashura al pnei kol echav nafal. So remember, before it said al pnei kol echav yishkon, and here it says al pnei kol echav nafal. So nafal, what does nafal mean? So some of the Mefarshim say it just means the same as yishkon. Some say that it has to do with a nefilah, some sort of concept. Some say that it's that he actually fell upon his brothers, meaning yado bakol v'yad kol bo. I'll tell you a story. So in my Abrahamic movement activities, I became friends with a guy in Saudi Arabia. What's the guy's first question to me that he wants to know about in Judaism? Was it Isaac or Ishmael who God was commanded to sacrifice in the Torah? He said, okay, in the Torah it's Yitzchak. And what does the Torah say about Yishmael? So I said to him, well, it says some things that aren't so complimentary. It says, that he will be wild, and his hand will be on everybody else, and they will be on him, and he falls upon all of his brothers. And he said, the Torah is true. I was like, okay, you said that, not me. In the Arab world, the tribal warfare, one upon the other, one brother upon the other, and the constant rivalries and constant clashes of clans, that's the nature. I don't mean this in a stereotypical overgeneralization way, but that's the Arab world is tribal, and this is one of the ways that we see it. Yes.
I feel like the Jewish nation is also very tribal.
We are.
Competitive.
Yes, we are also tribal.
And we were immediately split into two kingdoms, immediately.
So there's certainly parallels. I have something to say about it, but if I do, I'll get sidetracked. So I'll tell you what I think about that after the Shiur. Okay, so now, all right. After we went through Pshat and Psukim, again, favorable, unfavorable, not sure, and or neutral. Hagar, positive, neutral, victim. Okay. Okay. Positive.
Okay.
Positive. Okay. Why?
Because the angel speaks there, not change.
Angel speaks there. Okay. Anything negative?
The last one, it kind of switched from he was referring to her as Isha to Ama again, which shows like a degradation. Maybe for a little bit she was okay, but for some reason again refers to her, or she's referred to as.
Goes back and forth.
Less.
The Farshim are going to put very good observation. The Farshim are pay attention to that.
She's passive.
She's
very passive.
She's passive. Interesting. Okay.
Doesn't that happen to Yosef too, at the beginning of his story?
Interesting.
The things are happening to him and her, and they're just
Interesting. It's a good observation. Very good. And Yishmael, positive, negative, neutral, uncertain.
Negative. Negative.
Negative. Okay.
he's called they say he's going to be a Pere Adam.
Okay, right. So he said Pere Adam. He's an archer. It's not. It doesn't really say very much about him. He's mitzafek, but God listens to his cries, and then at the very end, he comes back to his father, the final kavod of burying him with his brother Yitzchak, and then he goes along on his way, and he has 12. There are 12 tribes, just as you said. There are 12 tribes of Yisrael. There are 12 tribes of Yishmael. Right? So there's a parallel in the stories here. Now the Gemara is. Then we're going to move on to the way that basically the overwhelming majority of the sources, and this is where I want to make a couple of statements. So the overwhelming majority of the sources are that Yishmael is negative. And the question is, how do we do this in an intellectually honest way? Okay, because not all of the sources are towards Yishmael are negative, and I don't want to do one of these things where you're shooting an arrow, not to be taking the arrow thing imagery. That wasn't the point of that, but to shoot an arrow and draw the bullseye around the arrow because I have a point that I want to make that everything is great. The majority of the sources, I have a book called Afishena, which is about Yimot HaMashiach and Acharit HaYamim, and it's all about Galut Yishmael and Galut Edom and all of the terrible things Yishmael and Edom will do to Am Yisrael at the end of days. But that's not the only voice that appears in the tradition, and so that's what we will see. Okay, but the Talmud puts it very clear. So when Yaakov comes to his sons just before he dies, Vayikra Yaakov el banav vayomer he'asfu ve'agida lachem. He says, "Gather, and I will tell you." Bikesh Yaakov legalut lebanav ketz hayamin. He was going to reveal to them everything that's going to happen at the end of days. V'nistalka mimenu shechina. And the shechina went away from him. Rashi quotes this. It's a medrash. It's Gemara. Amar Shema Chas V'Shalom Yesh B'mitati Psul. That maybe in my family, in my bed, in my progeny, there's a psul. Like who? Avram Sheyatza Mimenu Yishmael. He was Avram, but it's Yishmael who came out of Avram. Yitzchak Sheyatza Mimenu Esav. And even my father Yitzchak, who he still had Esav. I always say to people that, like, in terms of people's religious and spiritual lives, your father could be Terach, and you could still be an Avraham. And as a parent, you can have parents like Yitzchak and Rivka and still end up with an Esav.
Nurture versus nurture.
Having kids, you just don't know. You really don't know. And it doesn't, and where you come from isn't as much important as what you do with it. Okay, so Amru lo banav, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Amru, Kishem she'en b'libcha ela echad, kach en b'libeinu ela echad. So just as in your heart there is only one God, for us God is one as well. We are all your children, Yaakov. So the truth is, you could make an argument that Shiftei Yaakov, that the Midrashim tend to speak of them as tzaddikim, but the pshat of the Torah, at least certainly Shimon and Levi. Levi is a question mark. They do some pretty rotten things. Reuven does some rotten things. Yehuda does tshuva, but when it comes to religious life, or when it comes to the actual inheritance of Yaakov, the Shiftei Yisrael, they are all one nation, whereas Yishmael is its own nation, and Esav Edom is its own nation.
Is this referring to Shiftei Yisrael or
Shiftei Yisrael?
Oh, I thought it was between Yishmael and Yitzchak.
No, he says that maybe there's a psul. Maybe in my family I also have this situation where I have children who aren't going to be, my covenantal project. Okay, so now let's go back to the roots of it. Sarah and Hagar. Okay, but Tikra, this is really where it all starts. V'tomer Sarai el Avram, we read this. Hinei atzarani Hashem miledet bona shlichati ulai ibanem mimena. Vayishma Avram lekol Sarai. Vatikach Sarai eshet Avram et Hagar mitzrit shlichata biketzas Rashvadim l'shevet Avram be'eretz Canaan. Vatiten ota la'Avram isha lo leisha. We're going to see two commentaries who are remarkable in their ability to analyze what's said and what's not said, and how it's said in a deep and profound way. And they come from two different periods. One is the period of the Rishonim, which is the Ramban, and the other is Rav Shimshon Fal Hirsch, who's coming from the 19th century. And you'll see, you would have to assume that Rashar Hirsch read Ramban, but you'll see that the ability to read the text carefully is really quite remarkable. So Ramban says, "Vayishma Avram lekol Sarai lo amar hakatuv vayaskin." Doesn't say, okay, she said it, and he did it. El aval amar ki shama lekol Sarai yirmoz ki afa pisha Avram mitaveh meod lebanim lo asaken belo reshut Sarai. It's not Avram wanted a child. It's not like Avram said to Sarai, okay, let me have a pilegesh. Maybe we can do this. It's Sarah who's taking the initiative. Sarah is the one who's telling Avram. V'gamata lo nitkaven sheyibaneh hu mehagar v'yeh zaro mimena, and it's not that that this child is going to be raised by Hagar and will be that way. Ela kol kavanato la'asot ritzon Sarah shetibaneh mimena. But his whole intention is that he'll do the will of Sarah, and it's through Sarah that he will build. Sheyelo nachat ruach b'bnei shivchata, that she should have nachat ruach. She should have pleasantness through the children of her maid servants. Osh zechut shetizkehi lebanim ba'avur ken k'divrei rabotei. V'od batikach Sarah lehodia shelo miher Avram ladavar ad shelikachas Sarai. Again, it goes further. He didn't do this quickly. Avram was hesitant. He wasn't rushing to do this. It was Sarah had the idea, and then Sarah was the one who took her. V'izkira katuv Sarai eshet Avram la'Avram isha l'rmos ki Sarah lo nitiyasha me'Avram v'lo hirchika atzma me'etzlo. So even though he gave her, she gave him her maidservant, he's still my husband. I'm not like saying I want a divorce.
So why did he marry Hagar? Like make it official and not just?
Because Sarah insisted. Sarah is the one who.
How can you expect to fully have your husband when you just told him, let me split you 50-50 with another woman?
That's why it doesn't work. And the Torah specifically says this at the end of the Torah.
She brought it on herself.
In Sefer Dvarim, we'll see the halacha that comes up when a person has two wives, achat ahuva v'achat tznuah, and what the halacha is. We'll get to that. It's at the very end, which basically is what we learn from this. But this is a family. The Torah doesn't start. Rashi says, doesn't start with a chodesh zelachem, with halachot and with mitzvot. It talks about families. It talks about dysfunctional families and stresses and tests of faith and shalom bayit and all kinds of.
Just a quick question: why couldn't she be a pilegesh?
You'll see in just a second. Okay, he's kira katuv sarai he ishto v'hu isha aval ratzta shetiyeh gam Hagar ishto. Sarah wanted Hagar to be his wife. He didn't. V'lekach amar lo leisha shelo tiyeh kipilegesh rak isha nesualo. She's going to be a full wife. Okay. Today we don't have polygamy, but in these we know in the case of like Manoach, not Manoach. Who am I thinking of? Chana's Elkanah. He has two wives, and
Can I add something?
yeah, sure.
You said, like in Jewish law, if a person has a woman slave and he wants to marry her, he has to raise her status. She
Right.
can't be so it could be that Sarah's actually thinking about her rights and making sure that she's not being taken advantage of.
Sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think it's it could be, maybe not, but it could be that Sarah is making sure that this person
Yes.
isn't being taken advantage of. If you're going to be a wife, with all that means, you have status.
Right. Okay. Definitely. That's absolutely. That she wants her to be an equal. She wants her to be a partner. But at a certain point, Hagar then starts, looking down on Sarah.
Why did she want her to be an equal?
So it's a good question. When you see Rachel,
She gained nothing from it. She lost.
well, she wanted Yishmael to be, or she wanted the son to be hers. The way that when Rachel doesn't have children,
To be Hagar's?
no, Sarah wants the child to be hers. We'll see this in a second.
So why did she make him marry her?
Okay, so let's see Rashar Hirsch.
It makes no sense.
There's also the focus with Pilegesh is going to laugh.
That's a whole that's a whole other discussion. All right, Rashar Hirsch. Vayishma Avram l'kol Sarai, lo l'kol ishto. Doesn't say that he listened to his wife. He listened to her. Hushma l'kola, lo ba'asher hi ishto, not because she was his wife. V'lo mitoch hizdahut im kavanata, not because he identified with her intention. Ki lo me Hagar hu tzipa leben. He didn't expect to have a child with a son with Hagar. Shebo yikon atido. He didn't want this. אך הוא נענה לבקשת שרה כדי לספק את משאלתה האישית, והוא עשה זאת למענה, ואילו היא פעלה למענו. So Rasher Hirsch says that Avram is doing this because of Sarah, and Sarah is doing this because of Avram. which is an interesting idea. Why is Sarah saying, "Here, take my maidservant, take her as a wife, because I want you to have a son, but he'll also be my son."
So they weren't honest with each other.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work this way.
Like it's.
Ulai, next page. Ulai ibanem mimena. Maybe I will build from her. Ulai ezke al yada leben. Through her, I will merit having a son. Imani eten lecha et shivchati tiyet li hazchut lechanech et haban. I will be the one. I, Sarah, will educate the boy. V'im haben lo yikarei al shmi b'bchinat fizit. And if he's not going to be called on my name physically, hu yikarei al shmi b'bchinat musarit. But when it comes to moral education, he will be my child. V'hitpatchuto haruchanit tiyeh tluya bi. I'm going to be the one who's going to be responsible for his moral education. Kach eshavetz et atzmi b'binyan ha'itim ve'echye la'ad b'ben u'vizaro. Again, Rashi Hirsch is also pointing this out because this is the important. Why is it? The mother really has the most important impact on a child, and this is something that in Sefer Bereshit that is insisted upon over and over and over again. And Hagar and Sarah were two different people, and but as we said, you could still have Rivka and still end up with Esau. But Rivka understood who her son was. Yitzchak didn't really seem to understand who his son was. That's for this week's parsha. Okay, so now let's say the next pasuk. Vayomer Avram el Sarai hinei shivchatech biyadech asila atov be'einayich. Okay, so we're going to skip just do the Rambam. Matana Sarai v'tifraf mipanea chat'a imenu b'inoi hazeh. Ramban says that Sarah sinned by afflicting her. V'gam Avraham b'hanicho la'asot ken. Avram sinned by allowing her to do this. So Shama Hashem El Onya v'natan laben sheyehe per adam la'anot zera Avraham v'Sarah kol minei ha'inoi. Not only that, the fact that Sarah made Hagar suffer is the very reason that Israel has suffered from the children of Yishmael throughout all of history. In the case, what Ramban loves to talk about, Maaseh Avot Siman Labanim. What the Avot did is a siman, is a guiding stone, a guiding mark for what will happen in the future.
A quick question.
Yeah.
The Ramban, part of what you just said, it sounds like Avraham is also held responsible for sending Hagar away, even though God told him basically to do so. Right.
But the Inui itself, he didn't stop her from.
But God told him to listen to her.
Right. No. That's later. That's when Yishmael is born. This is before Yishmael is born. This is when Hagar is pregnant. Okay. Gonna skip this next Rosh Hashanah just because we're a matter of time. So look at source number 7. This is from Medrash. Amra hi mipnei Sarai gvirti anochi borachat mikana talamed shelo na'aseit Hagar isha ela le'Avraham aval l'Sarai nikreit shivcha. Someone said that. That in Abraham's eyes she was a wife, but to Sarah she was always a shivcha. Okay, and this is Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim. Also, when Avram goes down to Egypt, Vayhira Ba'aretz Vayered Avram Mitzrayma, Ramban says V'dak ki Avram Avinu chata chet gadol b'shgaga, that he did an unintentional, a great unintentional sin. Shehevi ishto hatzadeket v'michshol avon mipnei pachto pen yargu v'haya lo livtoach b'Hashem sheyatzil oto. He should have had faith in God that God will save him. This is the whole story with Avram. God is constantly stringing him along, and he's giving him instructions, and Abraham is like, okay, you tell me to go to this land, I followed you, I took my family, I uprooted myself, and now I go to this land and there's a famine. What am I supposed to do? So what do? They go to Egypt. Okay, the same thing, okay, you tell me I'm going to have children, I don't have children. My wife comes up with this idea that she's going to be a surrogate mother to. She's going to have a surrogate mother. The same chataim. Ramban is saying that God is testing Abraham. He's testing his faith, and This is but normal people aren't tested this way. This is something I always say with regards to the Akedah. Normal people would fail the test of the Akedah. And maybe the test of the Akedah should have been, and this is the Medrash of the Akedah, which is, that would be another shiur, and several shiur, for sure. Okay? Someone mentioned, Bereshit Rabbah, okay, these are the different ways in which Sarah afflicted Hagar. Okay, so now was she righteous or not? So the page 5. Okay, you see I highlighted all of the 4 instances where the Malach talks to Hagar. Vatikra Shem Hashem Hadover Ela Ata El Roi. She called name of God that spoke to her. You are the God that sees me. Rabbi Yehuda bar Simon, Rabbi Yochanan b'shem Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon, me'olam lo nizkak hakadosh baruch hu la'asiach im ha'isha, ela im ota hatzadeket. The first, or the woman who God has a conversation with in a real discussion is with that tzadeket. Is the tzadeket? Hagar.
What about Eshet Manoah?
That's a good question. It's a good question. It's a good question. Okay, so but now let's see on the next one. Vayashkim Avram baboker, vatelech vateta b'midbar shemitzaa sham levina v'zakfeta sham avodah zarah. So when she took Yishmael out, she put him in front of a place of avodah zarah. Lakach vayichlu hamayim menachemet. Then, so on one hand she's a tzaddikat, on the other hand she's taking him to a place of avodah zarah. Rasha Hirsch, Hanotesh Yeled be'efes ma'aseh mipnei she'en bekocho lirot b'yisurav eino po'el mitoch rachamim. But a person who abandons a child, be'efes ma'aseh, just I don't think is right. But because they can't stand to look at their suffering, it's not acting out of mercy. Zehu on enochiut, it's egoism, achzariut shel nefesh, and achzariut, wickedness of the heart. Adam shenetzra b'tiva agas.
What does that not mean? What does that not say?
It's just sort of like as but yeah.
But then if she does that, then what about Sarah that does? What?
So right. So what I'm saying is, you see that the sources on Hagar, they're conflicting sources. There are sources that say that she is cruel. There are sources that say that she's a tzaddikat. So you have both of these voices coming out.
What does that make Sarah?
So Sarah is told by Avram. Avram is told by God to listen to Sarah. But Ramban says Sarah sinned by afflicting.
But this is second time, right? This is second time.
The second time the second time Sarah has not said that she sins.
So how come
God is the one who says to Avram, don't al yirabeinecha. It should be evil in your eyes.
Say, but why not? Why isn't it considered?
It's a good question. That's considered one of the additional nisyonot, the tests of Avram, what to do in this instance. Okay. All right. So let's go to Yishmael. Okay. So what was Yishmael doing? So vayigdal bater Sarah ben Hagar mitzvita she'yodal Avram mitzachek. She saw that he was being mitzachek. Rashi on that pasuk. Mitzachek l'shon avodah zarah. What was Yishmael doing? He was engaging in avodah zarah. Kimo shene'emar ve'yakumu l'tzachek. Pasuk in Egel Hazav, that they got up to and they were laughing and doing holalut. They were doing ribaldry. That it's talking about licentiousness. The tema l'tzachek bi, that he came to the. Potiphar's wife says Yosef came to mock us. Davar acher l'shon ritzicha, or that it's like the language of murder. Yakumu naharim v'yisachaku lefanenu. That the case of Avner in Sefer and Yoav, I think in Sefer Shmuel, they use the phrase "Yakuma narim yisachaku lefanim." Okay, now Perkei de Rabbi Eliezer says about Yishmael. Yishmael nolad bekeshet v'nitraba bekeshet. He was born with the bow, and he became numerous with the bow. Shneimar v'hiro v'kashet v'haya notel keshet v'chitzim v'haya yoreh achar ha'ofot. He used to use a bow and arrow to go shoot after birds. Upam achat ra'a et Yitzchak yoshev levado v'yara alav chetz lahargo. And he shot an arrow at Yitzchak to kill him. Ra'ata Sarah saw this. V'higidal Abraham kazeh v'kazeh asa Yishmael Yitzchak. So this is not looking so good. But again, if we look at that perspective of boys, the older boys seeing the younger boy, and this kind of thing actually happens in regular families, and you can watch episodes of Law and Order where the older son didn't really want to kill the younger son, but they were playing and whatever. That's Law and Order. Okay, so now is Yishmael good or bad? So by Yishmael Elohim et kol anar, by page number 7. That God heard him based on where he is. So the Midrash says, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'malachim, Ata mahu tzadik harasha. Is he a tzadik or is he a rasha? L'kach ne'amar ki shama Elokim el kol hanar ba'asher hu sham. That's why it says he listened to him as he was at that point. And the implication being that he was a rasha, but at that point he was not. Okay? Another source, al pnei kol echav nafal, this that he went down. Al pnei kol echav yishkon. In the first time it said yishkon. Hacha atamar yishkon lahalan amar nafal. Ela kol hayamim shaya Abraham kayam yishkon. V'kevan shameit nafal. That all the time that Abraham was alive, he was yishkon. He was dwelling in a positive sense. And once Abraham died, he went down. Nevertheless, God blessed Abraham Bakol. Bakol she'asa Yishmael tshuva b'chayav. Yishmael did tshuva in his lifetime. They came together to bury Abraham, Yitzchak v'Yishmael. Rashi, Mikan she'asa Yishmael tshuva v'holich et Yitzchak b'fanav. That Yishmael also put Yitzchak before him. Ve'ele shnei chayei Yishmael. Page 8. Hakarov b'dvar pashat hu ki hakatuv yisaper b'vnei hatzadikim doldadam u'misaper b'chayehem. Okay, this is a Ramban. Ramban says that with tzadikim it says the number of their years and of their generations. Leodia ki zera tzadikim yivorach, that the seed of the righteous will be blessed. He goes through the ideas. It says, Yishmael was a tzaddik. Okay, and now somebody asked about the fact that there are rabbis named Yishmael or Yishmael. So you asked the. Okay, so Chidushay Ritva asked the question: Yishmael ben Abraham shahaya rasha. So the Ritva says no, Yishmael was a rasha. This is maybe according to the position that says that Yishmael did tshuva. Inami, alternatively, Deshani Yishmael shakadosh baruch hu kara obo toshim. Yishmael is different as a name because the name Yishmael was actually given by God to Hagar and to Abraham.
Isn't there something a little bit messed up about classifying someone as either good or evil? Isn't that a bit of an issue? It makes the Tanakh seem like it never really happened.
So, Midrash and the Talmud, I don't think you'll go through a single page in all of rabbinic literature and not have multiple differences of opinion. I think that's one of the things that makes the Jewish tradition so rich is this multitude of opinions.
I think it's just looking at people with choosing who's the hero and they can do no wrong, and choosing who's the villain and saying they do everything wrong. At the end of the day,
it's more complex.
Sarah, she made a bad decision, and she acted in a cruel way. It doesn't.
That's the position of Ramban.
You don't have to put her on a pedestal. I feel like it's.
That's the position of Ramban. That's the position of Ramban.
It makes it very unbelievable.
Yeah, there's a lot of two-dimensional figures. All right, we're at 9:00. We have a couple more sources. Do you guys want to go on, or you want to? Yeah, go on. Okay, so we're gonna continue. Okay, so Yishmael is considered the symbol for, this is, for me, one of the amazing things about the Torah, is that the Torah is written 1,500 years before Yeshu of Nazareth is born. 2,000 years before Muhammad is born. Yet you take the stories of Sefer Bereshit, and you take the figures of Christianity, and you take the major figures of Islam, and you plug them back into the Torah in Sefer Bereshit, and they fit like pieces of a puzzle. That is incredible. That is an absolutely amazing thing about the Torah. And and in some of the sources that we'll see, will say that this is part of the nevuah of the Torah, that the Torah was prophesying about a time when there will be a religion that will be of the figure of Yishmael. Igeret Teiman. So the two figures we're going to look at are Rambam and Rabbi Avraham ben Harambam. Rabbi Avraham ben Moshe. Rambam and his son. The Rambam was born in Cordoba, Spain, which was under the Moors. Any of you watch Seinfeld? Oops. No? Okay, if you know the Bubble Boy, Moors and Oops. I just had to. Anyway, so the Rambam wrote a letter called Igeret Teiman to the Jews of Yemen. There was a figure who was claiming to be a false Mashiach, and they were trying to convert people to Islam. And so the Rambam wrote a famous letter, and he talks there about Yitzchak and Yishmael and Islam. Hine ber HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'Torah la'Avram Avinu alav hashalom shekol ma she'yivticho haborei yitbarach mibrachot v'sheyitem mitzvot lizar'o v'yavdil otam mizulatam shebishvil zera Yitzchak ne'emar bilvad ze v'lo al ze ha'acher. The covenant is through Yitzchak. V'al derech shebe'aru chachamim zichronam livracha she'HaKadosh Baruch Hu shalach navi le'edom. He quotes the Medrash that says that before God gave the Torah to Am Yisrael, he went to Edom, he went to Esav. Kodem Moshe Rabbeinu lo di'a lahem haTorah v'lo ratzu kabla. They didn't want to accept it. V'chein shalach liYishmael, and they sent to Yishmael, do you want to accept the Torah? V'achar kach shalach lanu Moshe Rabbeinu v'kibal Noach kol asher diver Hashem na'aseh v'nishma. And we said to that, kol asher diver Hashem na'aseh v'nishma. We will do and we will hear. Okay, so the Rambam was born in Cordoba. He then fled. There was a group called the Almohads. He fled to Morocco. There are theories that he even had to live as a Muslim in secret on the outside. He wrote a work called Yeret Hashmad. There's some who say this. It's not clear, but how to behave when you're being religiously persecuted. And the Rambam then went to Eretz Yisrael, and then he ended up in Egypt. And in Egypt, he became the doctor of Saladin. So he had an experience dealing with Islam. He studies Islamic philosophy. He quotes Islamic philosophers all the time. But when it comes to the actual religion that he encountered, it was very, very negative. ואתם אחינו ידוע לכם שהקדוש ברוך הוא הפילנו במהרות עוונותינו לתוך אומה זו שהיא אומת ישמעאל שראתם חזקה עלינו והם מתחכמים לערב למאוס אותנו. This is a wicked nation, that they are stronger than us. They try to come up with all kinds of ingenious ways of doing bad to us, and to make us ma'us v'oivenu b'shalot ha'amod al Yisrael uma yoter oyevet mimena v'lo uma she'ara'a b'tachlit hara'a l'daldel otanu l'akdin otanu l'mos otanu kimohem. There's no other nation like Yishmael that does this to us, which is, so that would be the language that you're going to hear from a lot of people after October 7th, in terms of how to relate to Islam and how to relate to other religions. But at the same time, the Rambam says lahalacha. So that's the Rambam's political, quote unquote, opinion, or his opinion philosophically. But lahalacha ger toshav v'hu shekibel alav sheva mitzvot. This is the halachot regarding stam yain, that yeno asur b'shtiya umutar b'hana'ah. For someone who is a ben noach, their wine is forbidden to be drunks, meaning it's asur midrabanan, but it's permitted to get benefit from. And it's the same is the case for all non-Jews who are not idol worshippers, like these Yishmael. The Yishmael are basically Ger Toshav, Bnei Noach. This is a very famous source for the Rambam. Now, next. And they also don't drink alcohol. That's a good point. Amru Chachamim shebnei Keturah shehem zad. This is a strange thing in terms of covenant and the fact that Muslims actually do circumcision, but they don't do it on the 8th day. Amru Chachamim shebnei Keturah shehem zar Oshel Abraham sheba achar Yishmael v'Yitzchak chayavim b'milah. It's a strange thing that the Bnei Keturah and Behol V'nit Arbu Hayom Bnei Yishmael Bnei Keturah Yitchayvu Hakol B'Mila B'Shmini. That Muslims are required to do the mitzvah of Mila on the 8th day. It's a very strange halacha, but I thought it was interesting just to put that in there. That the Rambam holds that there is a mitzvah for Yishmaelim to do Mila. Meaning there's still something that they're certainly in the category of Bnei Noach, they're in the category of Gerei Toshav. There is some kind of covenant that is still with Yishmael, but it's not complete. Now the Rambam says, this is the end of say the Mishnah Torah. The thoughts and the mind of the creator of the world is not in the power of man to understand them. Our ways are not his ways, and our thoughts are not his thoughts. Rambam says in a very famous section that the whole purpose of Christianity, the whole purpose of Islam, is to pave the way for Mashiach. That the day will come that everyone will worship Hashem. Biyachad shneimar az epoch el amim safa berura likro kulam b'shem Hashem l'avdot Hashem. And that was my problem. Oh, here it is. Yishmael Echad. This is a book that came out relatively recently. I highly recommend it. Ripui HaKesher Bein Yisrael V'Datot HaOlam. Healing the relationships between Israel and the religions of the world. Published by Magid. Rabbi Dr. Yaakov Nagen is one of the writers of this book. It's excellent and really deals with this issue. I put in parentheses here what's it called, how exactly it's going to be that in Yemot HaMashiach this will happen. But you guys can read that on your own. Okay, now, final source is Rabbi Avram ben Aram. So, Rabbi Avram ben Aram, so one of the interesting things, what name did the Rambam choose for his son? Avram. Rambam liked Abraham. He liked him so much he named his son Abraham. So that's just a thing to notice. So Avram ben Aram, however, was born in Egypt, and he did not suffer the same persecutions that his father went through. Still, he said he had issues, but it's known that he was heavily influenced by Sufi, which was the Muslim mystical tradition. He quotes them explicitly in a work called Hamaspik Lovdei Hashem, that their practices are positive. He says that they're actually the original practices of the prophets, and that they were forgotten, and that the Sufis are renewing the practices that were originally Jewish practices in terms of reaching higher mystical states. Most people don't think about the Rambam and the Maimonideans as mystics, but Rabbi Avram ben Rambam talks about hitbodedut, he talks about meditation, he talks about all kinds of moral purification of the soul and of the mind and of the heart. Okay, so he says on the pasuk of Gareshet ha'mahazot ve'etmenah ki lo yirash ben ha'mahazot im b'niyim im Yitzchak. Okay, that v'nira li ki ramza bazek gam ken b'yediyah nivu'it. So this is where the Ra'avam says that it was a prophetic statement. Asher gila yit'aleh achar kach ki hashleimut hadatit asher huftecha lezera Abraham lo yishtatef ba zera Yisrael im zera Yitzchak v'hu lo yirash et hashleimut im Yitzchak shutafut gmura. He's not going to have a complete and total partnership. And it's because Yishmael they were not commanded to keep the Torah. The Muslims believe in the Torah, nevertheless, they deny it b'ta'anat bitula, they say that it's no longer valid. V'heriku otam b'ta'anat shinuya v'hachlapata v'af al pi she'eminu b'achlut haborei harei lo hayta emunatam zo im zarei Yaakov. Muslims hold that the Torah was a true revelation, but that the Jews changed it, and that it was, and that it's no longer the covenant is no longer applicable. Whether all Muslims believe this, how to understand the role of Jews in Islam, that's not the subject of this shiur, but it's obviously very, very relevant. But the Rabbi Avraham and Rambam is basically saying that it's not a shutafut gmura. Okay, he says last page. Okay, remez lehitgalut dat haIslam dat hama'aminim ba'achdut haborei hayotzim mimena. Okay, this is a hint for the revelation of the religion of Islam and those who believe in the unity of the Creator. Uvekama gdola chokhmat ma'amaro yitaleh asimenu levasof la'acharei hitgalut dat Yisrael b'shat hachoshech lahem b'sibat avonoteihem magid mireshit acharit. That Islam came in at a time of total darkness for the Jews. If you think about where the Jewish people were around the year 620, the Beit HaMikdash had already been destroyed 500 years. They were. This was like the dark ages of Jewish history. We don't know a lot about the period between the close of the Talmud and until the period of the end of the Gaonim. It's kind of a mysterious period, but centuries go by. Then he says, "Vayhi Elohim et hanar vayigdal vayeshev bamidbar vayhi roveh kashet." So why is it that maybe Yishmael and Islam? What's the problem? Vayeshev midbar yitaleh v'hu yiyeh per adam. This is he will be wild. V'hu moshav banav ad achshav, and that's the case today. V'roveh keshet yoreh b'keshet he'arat kinata el derech anshei hamilchama. Yishmael leans towards the pathways of people of war. V'zot hi hamidah shehivina bo Sarah. This was the character trait that Sarah saw. V'hayta doeget al Yitzchak b'shvilo. That was specifically why she was worried about Yishmael's influence on Yitzchak. Ve'ela shnei chayei Yishmael me'at shana u'shloshim shana v'yigva v'yamot v'yasef elamav. And nevertheless, ve'ela shnei chayei Yishmael har'a lecha bazeh al chavivuto shel Yishmael, the belovedness of Yishmael. Lefikach higdir shnot chayav. It says the number of his years. Umasha amar vayasef el amav hora ki higia ba'olam haba el hamadriga yevoha. That when he got to olam haba, he reached one of the highest levels of olam haba. Umasha amrubo midrash eno muchrach. What the midrashim say about Yishmael is not muchrach. It's not necessarily the case. V'hamaskil yeda lehavchin et ha'emet min hadimyon. The wise, the intellectual one, will know how to distinguish between the truth and that which is imagined. Right?
And what is that?
Meaning, he's saying that Yishmael was good, and that the maskil will understand that. The Ra'avan, Rabbi Avraham and Rambam also has a general approach towards midrashim, where he takes them allegorically, and also he takes positions regarding science of Chazal, where he's considered more modern, rationalist kind of approach. He's obviously not as famous as his father, but he's very, very, very interesting. Not studied enough as a personality in his own right. Okay, so we're coming to the end. So what do we learn from all of this?
Who's saying that he's good?
Rabbi Avraham ben Arambam. Avraham ben Arambam.
Ben Rambam.
Ben Arambam.
Not Rambam.
No. Okay. So where does this leave us? So the very end of the Torah, Parshat Kitetse, Kitiyena leish shtei nashim ha'achat ahuva v'ha'achat snua. When a man has two wives, one is beloved and one is hated. Now, it doesn't say one may be beloved and one may be the hated one. it seems to be that this is always the case. That the word in Hebrew for the second wife is maitzara. She's the one who causes me grief, causes me anguish. Okay, so this is already a bad situation. One is always going to feel like they're the beloved one, and that the other one is the rejected one. This happens with Chana. This happens with Rachel and Leah, Chana and Penina, and this is not a good situation. Nevertheless, v'yaldu lo banim ha'ahuva v'hasnua, they each give birth. V'haya haben habechor lasnia, the son of the one who is quote hated. The bechor is the snia. V'haya b'yom hanechilo et banav et asher yelo, and it'll be on the day when he has to give Yerusha to his children. Lo yuchal levaker et ben ha'ahuva al pnei ben hasnua. You can't make the ben ha'ahuva, the bechor, over the ben hasnua. Bechor ben hasnua yakir latet lo bishnayim. The ben hasnua deserves the double portion. B'chol asher yimatzeh lo hihu reishitono lo mishpat habechorah. So what does the Torah ultimately say?
Give Israel to Moses.
That's not what it was saying.
No, I was going to say it's quite striking.
But it's striking that the Torah basically says Yishmael is the bechor, and that God Himself was the one who took the position that Yitzchak gets the Bechorah and gets the he gets the Yerusha. But this whole system, this whole situation, from the very beginning was messed up, and it all started because of a very, very reasonable problem of faith. And you can kind of blame God for this, because God's saying, "I want to have." You, Avram, are going to have children. Where are my children? Sarah, where are my children? God, you promised this to us. Ramban says that you should have had faith. You should have, but to me, it's like Ramban is a very careful reader. When he says that, it's saying something very, very, very deep. It's Avram. When Avram hears God speaking to him, he's like, he knows that it's God speaking to him. He has a relationship with God. He starts laughing when God talks to him. When he's talking to God, when the angels appear, he says, "God, you wait here a second. I've got to go do the mitzvah of Hachnasat Orchid." Avram has a very, very deep relationship with Hashem. But at his relationship, he argues with Hashem, he debates Hashem, he haggles with Hashem, and then in the end, he ultimately submits to Hashem. But Sarah is going along with all of this Mishigas, and she's like, "I don't know what it is that I'm supposed to be doing in this situation." So you can I think you really can understand, you can really empathize. And that's the lesson that I feel that you take from this. Empathy is really the key factor. Understanding where all of them are coming from in this whole situation. The decisions that they made, why they made them. I think the position of Hagar, when Rashar Hirsch calls her cruel because she put her son aside and she couldn't bear to see him die, that this was cruel. Maybe she should have stayed with him, but she batisa kola vatev. She raised her voice and she was crying, and how do you judge Hagar in a situation like that? I don't know what I would do in such a situation. God forbid I should ever be tested to be in such a situation. I think you would stay with your child, but how can you judge someone in such a situation? How do you Sarah here? She says, "All right, I know polygamy isn't such a good idea, and I just want to have my relationship with my husband. But okay, I have this maidservant. It's okay to have more than one wife. So maybe let's try this out. It's not a good idea." But you can understand where Sarah's coming from. You can then understand a little bit, Hagar is a little bit like, "Hori, look, I'm the one, I got pregnant, And you see this dynamic happening with Leah and with Rachel, with Penina, and with Chana. The one who has children is, I'm the special one. The one who doesn't have children is like, why is God forsaking me? And this whole situation of not having children is one that appears over and over again throughout Tanakh. And it's real mitzukah, it's real suffering, it's real agmat nefesh. Hashem should bless us that we have healthy families, that we should have shalom bayit. Abraham was also trying. One of the mefarshim that I didn't bring just says that Abraham was just trying to have shalom bayit. He didn't know what to do. He had these two these two wives who were at each other's throats, and he was just like, "You guys work it out yourselves." And but Avram had to take an active role. In the end, Avram is told by Hashem what to do. So the story going with Yitzchak is basically a divine command. But the Torah later on is basically saying, from the very beginning, this was not a good situation. Questions, comments? Okay, thank you all so much. All right.
Thanks a lot. I'm going to take everyone's name.